Well, President Trump is en route to Air Force One, where he is set to fly to the dignified transfer of the 6 lost Americans in Kuwait. We just heard from him where he said the only way to defeat adversaries is to unleash the power of the American military. And I'm joined now by former Vice President Mike Pence. You know, Vice President Mike Pence, so great to have you here today. I was paying attention.
Kayleigh, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Some of the things you said this week, history will record that President Trump made the right call. And you said you wanted to commend him for having the guts to pull the trigger on this, and you cannot say you were surprised. How did you make that assessment?
Well, but look, it's remarkable. It's been 1 week since Operation Epic Fury began, but the truth is this war began 47 years ago. When the new Iranian regime held American hostages for 400 days. A few years after that, took the lives of 240 service members. And all those years, one administration after another has essentially been fighting the tentacles of the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. But because of the decisive leadership of President Trump as commander-in-chief, we're now taking the fight directly to the heart of global terrorism. And as I said, I was not surprised by it. I was at his side when he made the decision to strike directly at Iran, taking out Qasem Soleimani in early 2020. But look, I want to give the president all the credit in the world for making that decision. I also really have to tell you, I just couldn't be more proud of the men and women of our armed forces that did the planning, but most importantly, the people that are executing Operation Epic Fury. It has been a nearly flawless execution. I mean, we grieve the loss of lives that the president will be, the soldiers he'll be welcoming home today with the First Lady at his side. But it's been an extraordinary effort and operation. I heard one naval aviator said in the midst of it that he felt that he was, quote, surrounded by greatness. And from what we see from afar in the last week, I just couldn't be more proud of the armed forces of the United States, or frankly, the commander-in-chief that set them into motion to bring to an end nearly 5 decades of war against the United States, against our cherished ally Israel, that's threatened the world. And I pray that we see this through all the way to the end.
Yeah, you and me both. And I'm curious on the timing, because this notably took place in the second Trump administration and not the first. Why do you think this was the right time to strike?
Well, look, when we came into office in early 2017, we followed an administration that had literally shipped pallets of cash to the mullahs in Tehran. And the Iran nuclear deal was a complete disaster. And very early on, the president made it clear that we'd be getting out of the Iran nuclear deal. We did. We imposed what came to be known as a maximum pressure campaign. We took the fight, unleashed our military against ISIS that was encouraged and supported by the Iranian regime, took down their leadership and their caliphate. But when the president made the decision to direct our forces to take out Qasem Soleimani, he took an extraordinary step that was reflective of our desire to put unprecedented pressure on that regime. And when we left office, I can tell you, Iran was more isolated economically, diplomatically, and militarily than ever before. Unfortunately, Kayleigh, as you know, that was all squandered by the Biden administration that immediately went back to the table, begging to restart the Iran nuclear deal. The Iranians wouldn't even talk to us. They made the Biden administration work through Russia to try and get that deal started again. And all the while, Iran reconstituted its nuclear program, built up its ballistic missile program, and the ensuing violence that we've seen, not just in the region, but I believe that the weakness of the Biden administration emboldened Russia to attack Ukraine, emboldened Iran through its surrogate Hamas to launch the October 7th attack, the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And so right now what we're seeing is not only an effort by the United States military, our ally Israel, and other allies in the region to degrade the military and security capabilities of Iran so it doesn't threaten our country or even its own people, so that they might reclaim their freedom. But also, I think, Kayleigh, what the president is doing here with the military might of the United States is restoring the deterrence that was squandered during the Biden administration, and demonstrating that America remains the arsenal of democracy and the leader of the free world.
You know, I'm wondering, I think back, and our team has images of this, I've asked them to pull, to the South Lawn. Just before we left office, I was there as press secretary, you were there as vice president, in the Abraham Accords. And remarkably, Bahrain comes to the table, and the UAE, and they have a normalization of relations with Israel. That laid the groundwork for the Gulf state cooperation we are seeing, maybe not overtly, but certainly behind the scenes, did it not?
Well, it unquestionably did. And remember, the opposition, I think it was 3 different administrations and presidents had promised to move the American embassy to Jerusalem, and all of them had broken that promise. But President Trump made it clear that we not only would move the American embassy, but we would stand as Israel, with Israel as never before, recognized the Golan Heights and provided Israel with the means to defend itself. I really do believe it was a master stroke where the president recognized if we make it clear that all America is always going to stand with Israel, suddenly that created actually not the conditions for conflict, but the conditions for peace. And I do believe seeing these Gulf states come alongside the United States, the joint statement shortly after the initiation of hostilities, that Iran's inexplicable decision to attack its Arab neighbors all proves that once we take down the military and security apparatus of Iran that has threatened our country, threatened our interest in the region, our ally Israel, and the world, not only can the people of Iran have an opportunity to reclaim their freedom, but also I think it's going to create an opportunity for the Abraham Accords just to be a down payment on a whole new era of peace and security across the Arab world.
Wouldn't that be something? That is certainly what I pray for. Vice President Pence, thank you so much for your expertise.